On November 5th, 2015, my family learned that my mom's cancer had relapsed again. During her latest MRI, several lesions of non-Hodgkin lymphoma were discovered on her brain. That meant that all the conventional treatment that she had had to date had failed her, and there were no other options left other than an experimental trial, which her oncologist had located in New York City. So in the moments I included for November 10th through 12th in my book, Losing Linda May, A Cancer Caregiving Memoir, I am helping my mom to prepare to come to New York City, where she will have an initial consultation with the research institute that is overseeing the experimental trial to determine if she is qualified or not. That is a lot of information for anyone to wrap their mind around and grapple with. And some people are just innately better at it than others. Like, some people really can process their hardship and trauma and communicate how they're feeling in a way that's very clear and addresses the root of what is going on. Others, like my mom, just internalized everything, and you really had no idea what was going through their minds, because all that they were doing was channeling whatever they were feeling about this major incident in their life and the issue at hand into all these other way less consequential things that were happening day to day. So, perfect example, throughout these days in the book, she got really flustered about the fact that the mouthguard that she had to wear to help her with her TMJ had to be removed anytime that she wanted to get a sip of water in the middle of the night, which she wasn't a big water drinker, so I really didn't understand why that was such an issue to her. Also, she got really mad when my dad's phone was on the counter in the kitchen and not sitting next to him in his armchair in the family room, because she had texted about the fact that the TV was too loud and he didn't see it, so she had to come out and tell him. She got so frustrated with her nail technician, who was being too chatty and was taking too long. Then when it came time to pack, it was like World War III was occurring, because she picked a battle with every article of clothing that she was trying to put in an already full suitcase. And I was trying to get to the logic behind why she needed everything, knowing that we had a washer and dryer on my floor. And then finally on the plane to New York, they didn't have any prepared sandwiches, which I thought that they would because it was a long enough flight, but turns out no, they just had snack boxes. And the only snack boxes that they had available were ones that she didn't like. And so then, magnifying all the things going on underneath with her being hangry, it was not a great combination. These are all things that prior to her having cancer, especially contending with a really terminal prognosis, would have just rolled off her back. She might have gotten annoyed for a brief moment, but she would have moved on. But when you are staring down the fact that your only option left is an experimental trial which has no guarantees to work, otherwise you will die, everything you are going through in life does get magnified, especially when you are not communicating about the root feelings that you are experiencing. During this time, I was way more patient with her because I knew exactly what was going on. I knew that all the emotions that she was harboring and that she wasn't really reconciling with were bubbling to the surface and manifesting in all these minor infractions that normally wouldn't bother her. So with that understanding, I could let things roll off of my own back a little bit easier. At this point, to the best of my ability, I just tried to lessen what she was feeling in these moments of intensity without trying to tip into the toxic positivity territory, because that is all I could really do. I couldn't promise her that good things were on the way, because that would be completely false. I had no idea. The prospects looked really grim to me, so I didn't want to say anything that wouldn't feel genuine to me or wouldn't feel genuine to her. I didn't want to belittle what she was feeling either, because all of what was coming out through these minor infractions were valid. I believe that this period of time would have been very different if my mom was working with a therapist or a psychiatrist or even a mental health professional who was just trained to work with individuals who had cancer, because through them, she could have understood what was happening. And the fact that she was channeling her emotions that were connected to this terminal diagnosis into all these inconsequential things, and they could have helped her recognize what was going on and just how her brain was working. But no, she was a traditional Midwestern woman who was a boomer and didn't believe that mental health professionals were for her. She thought that therapists were for crazy people, and she wasn't crazy. So anytime that we would suggest something like that to her, that it could just be helpful, why did she go try see a therapist, she would shoot us down because she didn't think that she needed one. My advice to anyone who's in a similar circumstance where their loved one is misplacing their emotions due to a medical health crisis is to try and get them professional help. Get them in to see a therapist or a psychiatrist. If they're not receptive to you making that suggestion, try to work with their medical team, because usually people who are experiencing a medical crisis will be much more receptive to, say, their oncologist or their primary care physician, making the suggestion that they get some professional mental health care just to help them through their journey. They can position it in a way that doesn't feel like they are being labeled crazy, like my mom would say. And once they're in the door and have a good first experience, then I think you're off to the races at that point. But if that is completely off the table, if your loved one is just totally against therapy, like my mom, then you really just have to develop that resolve and that patience to let all of that frustration and negativity roll off of you when it's constantly bombarding you on a day-to-day basis. As you will see throughout part 4 of my book, I had good days with that and I had bad days with that, because it is hard to endure for a sustained period of time. Also, don't directly confront them about their negativity in a way that will make them feel worse about themselves, which is something that I did with my mom. Then she was constantly in her head about the fact that she was being a burden on me, and that was perpetuating the cycle and just making her spirits even worse. In the next video I'll be releasing on November 13th, I'll be talking about how awful it can be to have a major medical appointment on a Friday and then to be suspended in uncertainty throughout the entire weekend. So hit subscribe, leave any questions in the comments. The link to Losing Linda May is in the description, and I will see you all then.